So as a home-based vendor, you can only sell your product on at the farmer's market, roadside stand. Yes.
Can you deliver as a home-based vendor, like from your farm to your customer?
No. Yeah. So then that's a retail.
Just because it's coming from your vehicle, you're transporting the goods.
And also, you may see sometimes people sell in those gift stores, like maybe your neighbor has a cute gift store, and then you see like things sold there. Actually, it's not allowed. If you are only a home-based vendor, you are not allowed to sell because they are not roadside stand. They are not farmers market. That's wholesale. So you are selling to a retail store, and the retail store is going to sell. If that makes sense to you.
I think it does. So we have like a CSA program. So if we wanted to like bake goods at our home and then we deliver our CSA, is that's still the same? We can't do.
So it is different if you have, for example, if you are a bakery, you have a bakery, and then as a bakery you also sell in the farmer's market, and then you also deliver, then you are not under home-based vendor. You are a food establishment. You are a restaurant. You are a restaurant. You are producing. You are a bakery. You are a food establishment. So for home-based vendor, they are not food establishment. They do not even hold any inspection from the county level, from the state level, if that makes sense to you.
It does, but I guess the only difference that I see is just like the actual delivery. Like if we're raising our crops, if we're making our food at our primary residence, I guess the only difference I see is just the actual delivery. The actual vehicle is like owned by us if we're like delivering it to our customers.
But still, that's not a roadside stand, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
So
we just have to do the exact same thing, but just they had to come to us, then it's just totally different.
yeah, I know it sounds weird, but yeah.
Well, my question is the CSA factor.
Yeah,
Because
so
if they're buying a share per farm, and the baked goods are part of that farm operation, why is there a limitation?
Well, I don't know. So this is my limited knowledge about CSA and how it intersect with home-based vendor. This is the part I don't really know. So probably, so I should consult someone, and also maybe you should also consult someone to learn more about it. Yeah. Well, someone this is. So you can consult your county health department, ask them the specific questions. So I think a lot of the times when I get question, I mean not from this audience, like from a farmer, for example, most of the time it works if my clientele can describe their question specifically. So for your case, what you can do is you can just describe you're confused about CSA. Now I have CSA permit, but can I sell the product by just driving down to the street and then deliver to my consumer? So ask those specific questions to them.
Did I hear you saying at the end of the last question that it's possible that your county has regulations that say that even though this is allowed by state law, you can't do it?
Yes, you are right. Oh, man. That's why that's why I always say that consult your county, because Even if on the state level, they say one thing, on the county level, they have their own decision-making process. That's why, so when I first came to Indiana, it was a shock to me. It was shocking because I came from California. So for a person, you need to worry about whether your employee or yourself are sick, whether there is proper hand washing procedures, sanitizing procedures, adequate personal clean, like shower, take off jewelries, tie back the hair, suitable gloves maintained in satisfactory conditions, and glove use. Did they wash their hands before put the gloves on? Did they wash their hands after they take off the gloves? All of those matters. Suitable outer garments, jewelry removed, hair restraints, no eating, drinking, or tobacco use in production area. So in the next couple of slides, I'm going to give you let's do a discussion. So tell me what's wrong with this picture. This is a food handler's hands. Illness? This hand could be infected with certain virus, and this could be transmittive, infectious. So be careful if you see any sign from your food handler. And plant and ground, this is the environment. You need to remove all the debris, unused equipment and uncut vegetation, proper drainage, proper waste disposal. You wouldn't know if usually we swab and do the environment testing, and that's what bigger plants also do. They do swabbing, and then look at the drainage. It's really dirty and has a lot of bad bacteria in it. If you do not clean it very often, you feel like, hey, I never really, put my food near the drainage. But bacteria can travel, right? Can travel. Adequate space for operation, proper separation of operation to prevent cross-contamination. Cleanable walls, floors, prevent drip or condensate from contaminating the product. So another thing is think about your air conditioner. Sometimes the air blowing out from the vent, you need to think about clean that very often. So if the vent is contaminated, the air will not be contaminated by the vent. So think about all of those in your environment. What's wrong with this picture? This is a waste disposal and drain area. Disgusting. Just disgusting. Yes, exterior drain clogged with food waste. So this is a potential source of contamination of food by seepage, foodborne filth, and a breeding place for pests. What's wrong with this picture? This is a ceiling light fixture. Yes, good. So the broken light bulb could be, this is in raw material storage area. This picture was taken in a warehouse. But think about your own home kitchen and your own ingredient storage area, maybe your basement. Think about all of those places. Could those fall into your ingredient? Sanitary operation. So you need to separate the toxic chemicals properly identified, stored, and used. Toxic chemicals could be bleach, right? Could be the soap. Anything that shouldn't be in the food. Pest control, safe and effective. One of the inspector told me a story that she went to a factory and found that the warehouse has cats in the warehouse. And he asked them, so why you allow cats in the warehouse? And the owner of that operations told her that this is part of my pest control. We are using cats to control the rats. So that is not allowed, by the way. So the pest control need to be safe and effective. And food contact surface need to be cleaned and sanitized before use and after interruption. What's wrong with this picture? So this is white and brown sugar at a bakery. Right? So improper storage of chemicals, right? So you shouldn't put those right by your materials. Even when properly labeled, these chemicals do not belong in the food preparation area.
I have a question.
Yes.
On the previous slide about single service articles, and one of my questions is, if you're going to make something at home,
Mm-hmm.
You buy a case of ball jars or something, and you clean them before you use them, and you sanitize them or sterilize them, whatever. But I've often wondered when they do honey, which we have done, and I always use jars, but some people put them in the plastic things that come, you get them right from the factory. Do those have to be cleaned before you use them? Because it seems to me that's a little bit scary.
So the new honey regulation of the state will come out later this week. Oh, today is Friday, huh? It should come out either this week or next week from the state. Frankly speaking, honey, maple syrup, those supposedly to, especially like those sweet things, should be under the category of lower risk food. But as I told you, that lower risk does not mean zero risk. If you spot that, that probably is not right. You need to keep, even when handle lower risk food, you still need to be very careful to follow those guidelines to make sure that eventually your product will be low count of
So
bacteria.
What I'm asking you is,
Mhm.
is when plastic service things come from the factory, are you to assume that they are clean and ready to use and sanitized?
You need to ask them.
But I heard no, because the way sometimes where they're stored, it could be mice droppings or whatever.
You need to ask them what did they do. Sometimes the dirty part could be stain, but sometimes they are not. You need to ask, and also ask them what you're going to do. Maybe they're going to pasteurize. Maybe they're eventually going to pasteurize.
So if we go into Gordon Food Service and buy takeout things, assuming it's clean, if you wash them, you're maybe adding more contaminants to them, right? The plastic.
You mean like one? Oh, okay. Now I understand what you mean. Those like single service use.
If you
Before,
Clamshell.
yeah, that's a good one. Before and after you use it, before and after you use it, you should make sure they're clean and sanitized. So that means if it doesn't really say it's sanitized, you have to sanitize it.
So if a teaspoon comes in wrapped in a plastic.
Yes, we assume Yeah, again, think about the single-use item in the hospital, right? And then think about in the cafeteria, everyone can grab those plastic spoon. They are all single-use, but the concept is different. If you notice what I mean, the standard is different. For the purpose of your production, you may want to take extra precautions, even if you use single-use item. The storage, like she said, the storage area, they might not control well. We need to document it and ask them, where do you store? Can I just directly use this on ready-to-eat food? Or you require me to do one more step of sanitation before I use. You should ask your supplier and document it. If something happens, you need to document. In our world, if there is nothing written down, nothing happened. Even if you asked them at a certain point, but you didn't write it down, it didn't happen. That's a very good question. Thank you. Food contact surfaces must be smooth and easy to clean. Cleaned and sanitized and necessary to protect against allergen, cross-contact, and cross-contamination of food. Potentially hazardous situations that may require food safety plan document including allergen cross-contact, environmental pathogen, harborage sites, sanitation frequency to prevent pathogen growth. What's wrong with this picture? This is a food handler trying to clean his apron on the floor. Apron cleaning on the floor and over a floor drain. If you notice that, it's a no-no. Employee is focused on cleaning but needs training on potential sources of contamination. You as owner, you may know better. What if your daughter or your neighbor is trying to help you with this batch? You need to properly teach them. I know sometimes it could be challenging to teach someone you know, but you need to make sure. Tell them the importance. What's wrong with this picture? This is a washing sink. So this is a leaking faucet, you may notice that. And there is an open hole. You can see that. Those could be potential area for cross-contamination. Toilet. So, of course, this may be far away from your food preparation area, but still could be a point of cross-contamination. Hand washing sink. This hand washing sink, this is for hand washing. But if you notice that, actually this is a small processor, small like home processor. They also work on tofu. So, sorry. They also use this sink to store and to store and collect the soy curds from pressing. And also you notice that the pink thing is a bar soap, which is not allowed. Okay? So you need to use the liquid soap because of the cross-contamination by using bar soap. What about this one? This is storage area, stored pita chips.
Who should be on the floor? Shouldn't be contact on the floor.
Good job. So pita chips may be cross-contaminated because they just use the poly bags. The poly bags, it's really easy to be teared, right? It will be exposed in the environment. There would be attract a lot of pest, right? So what is Hasip? So Hasip, I think, is maybe the first thing. If you are serious about your production, is the first thing you should consider to get training from. So this includes 5 steps. H stands for hazard analysis. Okay, H stands for hazard. A stands for analysis. The first C stands for critical control point. Okay? And the second C is critical limit. P stands for program. And then we have hazard analysis. Did you remember in the very early on when you first met me, I said, when you think about food safety, you need to think about what are the items you need to worry about, right? Salmonella, Listeria, E. coli, or norovirus. And then you need to analyze it. Which one is more important to your product? Okay? It's much more prevalent in your product. And which one can kill people, have a more severe consequence? That's the analysis. And then set the critical control points. What are the critical control points to control this hazard? And then the critical limit. For example, if your critical control point, when I cook a turkey, raw turkey, the critical control points is the cooking to kill the bacteria. My critical limits here would be the temperature, right? I need to make sure the turkey meets certain temperature. And then how am I going to monitor it? I'm going to use thermometer to monitor the temperature. And then what if the temperature did not reach my target, my limit? The corrective action, I am going to recook the chicken or spend more time in it. Okay. So I'm going to skip some of the slides because of the limited time. So again, hazard analysis, you need to identify the hazard, and then you need to evaluate the hazard. So I also print out this book for you to look at. Again, you can, if you are interested, this is also free on FDA's website. Just write down, search, Google the title. You will find the PDF. You can download and print. So what this one does is, it comes very handy to show you. For example, if I am a bakery, I have a bakery, and I produce ice cream cones, for example, what are the bacteria I need to look for? What are the most important bacteria I need to be careful about? Okay? So it will have a X. And then it will show example products to define this ice cream cone, what this ice cream cone they meant in this book. Okay? So that will help you with the hazard identification and evaluation. And then justification for not including hazard in your Hasip plan. So, not reasonably likely to occur even in absence of control at levels likely to cause illness or injury in finished product due to system design because of a specific SSOP, means standard sanitation operation program. After identifying the hazard to be controlled by the Hasip plan, identify control measures to prevent occurrence. Okay? So, for example, if you're producing some raw juice, the hazard identified would be the pathogens, right? We talked about. So one control measure could be pasteurize it, kill the bacteria. If you're making puree, maybe you are worried also about sulfites. Then your control point would be label it for people who are allergic to sulfite. Equipment. If you use a certain equipment, you may need to control the metal fragments. It's unlikely for you as a home-based vendor to invest in something like metal detector, but down the road, when you hit the processor category, that will be something you are looking for. I need to skip a lot of slides. Okay. So last but not least, food safety plan. So food safety plan is a little bit more than Hasip. You also need to think about food allergens, supply chain, your ingredients. Because not all of your ingredients come from your farm, right? You may buy them from a grocery store or from like Gordon Food. So you need to think about where are those ingredients come from? And a recall plan. What if something happened, just like the pastel item, right? What if something happened? So I hope after this workshop, the first thing you go back and start a new book, new notebook, start a food safety plan. Think about it. Think about what is your process? What are the products you are making? What is the process of the product? Is there any point currently you are controlling the hazard, either by cooking it or by heating it? Hazard analysis. What are the hazards? And do you have any control point to control those hazards? Either label it, or you cook it, or you find a better supplier that has already sanitized. Recall plan and the implementation. By the end of the day, the bottom line of food safety is that food shall not be contaminated. Food should be that healthy, nutritious product that consumers can eat, that will not make them sick. No unsafe ingredients, no missing valuable components, no spoiled meat standards. You need to know your product, know your process. It's a very good point Jen brought up. Even thinking about the single-use cookware you currently bought from the store. Think about all of those details, because by the end of the day, all of those counts. Understand the risk, understand the regulations. Check your assumptions with regulators. It's very important. Start to build a connection with your local county Department of Health. Try to check all your assumptions, either County A, County B scenario, or whether I can do this, I can sell this door to door to my consumer directly. All of those should be checked and asked. Again, I highly recommend you to just print out those information. If you haven't filled out this evaluation form, please do. I really appreciate your input